To figure out the optimal number of topics, we can use coherence scores. A coherence score tells us how meaningful the top words in a topic are when grouped together. Higher scores usually mean the topics make more sense to humans. To calculate these scores, we import the coherence model class from GenSim. We also import Matplotlib's pyplot module, giving it the alias PLT, so we can plot the coherence scores and compare different numbers of topics. Okay, how do we proceed? We're going to create a for loop where we'll iterate through different numbers of topics and put these coherence scores into a list for inspection. The first step is to create two empty lists, one for our coherence values and one for our models. We then specify the minimum and maximum number of topics we want to run. Here, the minimum is 2 and the maximum is 11, but these can be any numbers you choose. Next, we create the for loop to iterate from our chosen minimum number of topics up to the maximum. For num topics in the range from minimum topics to maximum topics, plus 1 to include the maximum number. Within the loop, we create a model where the number of topics changes for each run, starting with the minimum and going up to the maximum. Let's break it down. First, we create an LSI model with the LSI model class. This gives us a new model object that we can work with. Inside the parentheses, we pass the inputs the class needs. DocTerm, which is our document term matrix we created earlier, the number of topics specified by the loop variable numTopicsI. Each time the loop runs, numTopicsI will increase by 1, starting from the minimum until it reaches the maximum. The dictionary to map IDs back to words. A random seed which makes sure we get the same results every time we run the code. Next, we append this model to our empty model list in case we want to check it later. We then run a coherence model, which takes several arguments. Our model, the original text, our articles, our dictionary, and the coherence type. Here we use CV as the coherence measure. CV combines several statistical ideas to measure how often the top words of a topic actually appear together in the documents. It's one of the most widely used choices because it often matches human judgment of what coherent topics look like. Finally, we calculate the coherence score. The method getCoherence gives us a number showing how coherent the topics are. We add this value to our list of coherence scores so we can later compare results for each number of topics. By the end of the loop, we'll have a full list of coherence scores, one for each number of topics we tested. This makes it possible to plot them and see which number of topics works best. We use plt.plot to create a line chart. On the x-axis, we have the number of topics we tested, from the minimum up to the maximum. On the y-axis, we have the coherence scores we calculated in the loop. This gives us a curve that shows how the quality of topics changes as we add more of them. When we read the plot, we look for the point where the coherence score is the highest. In our case, the peak is at 3 topics. That suggests the model with 3 topics gives the most meaningful grouping of words. We then create our final model using 3 topics by setting final num topics to 3 and creating another LSI model with this number. We can print out the results and inspect how the different words for each topic appear. It is important to note that sometimes the most mathematically accurate number of topics is not always the most valuable for your business. For example, if we set the number of topics to 11, it might also have a high coherence score, but 11 topics could be difficult to explain to stakeholders. Sometimes it is worth manually checking how the different topics look when using different numbers of topics. You can use coherence scores as well as your intuition, knowledge of the project, the business, and the people you are working with to influence the number of topics you decide to use. If you choose a value that is not the most optimal in terms of coherence score, but makes more sense to you and your business, that is absolutely fine. No one will challenge you on that unless the model is really incoherent. It is about finding the right balance. Once you have run this process a few times, you will get the hang of where that balance lies.